Sean Strickland versus Krzysztof Jotko takes place this weekend on the main card of UFC Fight Night Vegas 25, Reyes versus Prochazka, and I can't wait to watch Sean Strickland inside a cage being Sean Strickland, because it's one of the most entertaining things to watch. I'll definitely have my headphones on for this one because I've got to hear what he's saying in the cage to Krzysztof Jotko. Maybe he learns a little bit of Jotko's native language because he's not too good at English. Who knows? But Sean Strickland is literally Big Mouth 2.0. He's Kevin Holland with less reach but takedown defense. I like Sean Strickland here against Krzysztof Jotko, but this is a great matchup. Sean Strickland right now ranked at number 15, and I feel like if he wins this one, that Kevin Holland bout is already said and done. Even if he loses to Krzysztof Jotko, they might still make the Kevin Holland bout because those two have been going back and forth on Instagram recently, and I'll read some of that out later on in this video. But let's get to the prediction. Both guys doing pretty well right now on win streaks of their own. Krzysztof Jotko on a 3-fight winning streak, same as Sean Strickland. I would argue that Sean Strickland's one is a little bit more dominant than Krzysztof Jotko, but then again, I'd also argue, other than his last win against Brendan Allen, Jotko's last 3 opponents compared to Strickland's are a little bit better, I would say, because he beat Alan Amadovsky, who isn't the best win, don't get me wrong, but he beat Marc-Andre Barriault, who just beat Abu Azaitar. That's a really good win to get. He beat Eric Anders, who was kind of on his way to beating Darren Stewart, so that's a really good win to get as well. I mean, Krzysztof Jotko has been grinding away. He's been around for a very long time. He's fought so many times in the UFC. Before this 3-fight win streak, he was on a 3-fight losing streak, 2 of which by KO, and it looked like maybe he was on his way out of the UFC, but since then, he's bounced back. Won 3 in a row. Really good performance against Eric Anders. They're not great performances when it comes to Krzysztof Jotko. He kind of just holds people against the cage and does some little stuff here and there. It's not going to be the most entertaining bout whenever you watch Krzysztof Jotko, but he does win fights, and that is all that matters, I guess, at the end of the day. If you're looking for your win money and show money on top of each other, you get double the paycheck for winning, so I don't blame these guys for going out there and doing anything to get the win. But Sean Strickland, the way he's been doing it recently is just way more impressive than Krzysztof Jotko. A great win against Brendan Allen, and that was the real coming out party for Sean Strickland, because before that, I was picking Brendan Allen to beat him because I really think Brendan Allen is going to be a real threat in this division, and we saw that when he just finished Carl Roberson in the first round just last weekend. But Sean Strickland went out there against Brendan Allen and just pieced him up pretty easily. I know Brendan Allen remembers it very differently, and maybe that's because he got hit a little bit hard towards the end, and maybe he isn't remembering things too well. He said he wins 9 out of 10 times, and that was the 1 out of 10 times, but he was really being pieced apart very badly by Sean Strickland in the first round. The second round started to get a little bit worse for him, and then Strickland eventually got the finish in the second, and as he finishes Brendan Allen, he lets out a fuck you as he's finishing him per punch. Fuck you. It was an amazing outpour of emotion from Sean Strickland. I love watching it. He also showed some grappling in that bout with Brendan Allen as well. Shot a takedown, got a minute and a half of control time. I like Sean Strickland here. I think he's got great takedown defense. No one's taken him down since Usman at welterweight, and even Usman got 2 of 8 takedowns, failed 6 of them, like only got 25% of his takedowns on Sean Strickland. So that's even good. I know it looked bad back then, I'm sure, for Sean Strickland, but now that we see Usman's gone on to become a dominant champ, I'm sure he's looking at that and thinking, you know what, I did actually kind of good against Usman. I didn't get finished like Masvidal did. Either way, Usman struggled to get Strickland down in many moments of that fight. He got him down eventually, don't get me wrong. He had to keep trying over and over and over again, but Sean Strickland's takedown defense, in my opinion, is just too good for Krzysztof Jotko, and I don't see Jotko being able to get him down, because Jotko is one of these guys where he's got to grind you against the cage. He's got a takedown accuracy of 35%. That's because he always fails like 5 different attempts before getting one, and that one might steal him around on a split decision or something like that. Like, Jotko is a very tooth and nail fighter. He will do the littlest of things to get himself an advantage. Like, Jotko's the type of guy to win a round based on 1 foot stomp or something like that. Like, he's a real smart guy with the way he ekes out these decisions, but I don't think you can do that against a guy like Sean Strickland, who has the takedown defense, and he's got good cardio as well. He builds as the fight goes on. He's not a guy that slows down, that's explosive early. He actually starts a little bit slow, to be honest with you guys. I think that's the one problem that he's had in his career, but he seems to have fixed that recently. Earlier in his career, he used to have a real problem starting a little bit slow, giving away a round, and maybe they'd be able to sneak the second round or something like that. But he used to start a little bit slow in the first round, pick things up as it went on. But now he seems to be doing really well in the early rounds as well. I think he's improving massively, and I can't wait to watch him versus Jotko. I think I'm going to call Sean Strickland by second round. No, I'm going to call Sean Strickland by 3rd round TKO against Krzysztof Jotko. I think he might lose the first round barely. There's going to be some grappling against the cage. Jotko's going to try and pressure him against the cage and just be a wet blanket, basically, the Chiesa of the middleweight division. See what happens there. I think he's just going to push Strickland against the cage, try and land those knees to the thigh, try and land those foot stomps, try and land those little shots on the inside. Maybe Strickland lands a couple of shots at range, but then again, Jotko's going to try and pressure and move forwards. I think as the rounds go on, Strickland's going to get his timing down on Jotko, and he's going to start tagging him coming in and looking for those clinch exchanges against the cage. Then Jotko's going to start playing the outside game because he doesn't want to get tagged coming in anymore, and I think they're both going to be at range, and Strickland's going to have a real good time just boxing his face off in that second round. Come the third round, I can see Jotko getting tagged with a left hand as he comes in looking for the clinch and going down in the third by TKO. I think Strickland gets to finish as this fight goes on. However, very dangerous fight. I know he's a massive favourite, but Jotko is a dangerous contender, but I think that's mainly because Strickland's takedown defence has been so good throughout his career, and I just don't see him being held against the cage the entire time in this bout against Jotko. Jotko's the older guy. Strickland's come back with a little bit of rejuvenation in his career as well. I think he's, how old is he right now? He had a long time off after he had a motorbike accident or something like that. Now he's back in action. He is currently 30 years of age to Jotko's 31, but they are two different ages in terms of fight years. Strickland's had his fights where maybe they've gone a bit to a scrappy decision or something like that, but then you got Krzysztof Jotko again. As I said, 2 of his last 5 fights he's been TKO'd. Not really good at this point in his career to start getting TKO'd that often. I feel like he's going to lose this one by 3rd round TKO to Strickland, but either way, very good fight. Looking forward to it. But just the way he's barely eking out Marc-Andre Barriault, where arguably maybe he should have even lost that fight anyway. Like he's barely eking out Eric Anders, but like he does just enough every round with a couple of significant strikes to get by. Whereas Strickland is literally walking people down, having a conversation with them, and like asking them to fall down in the 3rd round if they're Jack Marshman, because he's just tuning them up so easily. He's having the time of his life in there. Against Brendan Allen, talking to him, beats the shit out of him at the end of the 2nd round, and lets out a big roar of fuck you at the end of it. I just love watching Strickland fight, and I just also secretly want Strickland versus Holland. Immediately after this, regardless of the result, Jotko can fucking Joaquin Buckley kick Strickland in the face. I don't care. I want Strickland versus Holland, and I'll tell you why. They've been talking back and forth on Instagram, and let me narrate this one for you. Sean Strickland says, "Let's go. Next time you're in Austin, come to Vegas and we'll get some sparring and pointers." He said some guy asked Strickland to take on Kevin Holland next, and that was Strickland's reply, because Strickland does reply to a lot of his comments on Instagram. He's a guy with a lot of time on his hands, I guess, or a nice guy, either one of them. And Trailblazer Top replied to that, saying, "Murder, your only chance is to hold my legs, stop the cap." Strickland is not a guy who takes people down, okay? He doesn't do that whatsoever. He prefers to stay on the feet, but Kevin Holland called him out and said that he wouldn't stand with him. Strickland comes back. "You're a skilled fighter. I'm sure it would be a war. We would both enjoy, win or lose." And Trailblazer comes back. I'm just going to jump back and forth here. "Now you said murder, that's more my speed." And Strickland comes back, and this is when he turns it to the next level and becomes the trash talky bit. "No laying on your back, talking while in the missionary position is more your speed." Okay? Then Kevin Holland comes back again. "Lol, nah, sometimes I knock people out from there. You should find out." I want to find out, Kevin Holland. So let's find out after this one, eh? Let's do Strickland versus Holland next. I'm down. Big Mouth versus Big Mouth. Make it happen. Then you got Strickland bouncing back to Trailblazer Top again. "Don't worry, if we ever fight, I'll spit on it first. Do you like oil-based or water-based?" And this is where the conversation, it takes a bit of a homosexual turn, but that's just something that Strickland seems to do quite often with his things, but whatever. And then he says, "You joke about murder," because Holland said he would murder in the cage against Strickland. "I can dig that too. I would like to take someone's life, but think about if we had life in prison together. I would physically fuck you. Like, you would hate it at first, and you would probably try and fight back or tell the guards, but I think after a while you would just accept it, maybe even use your mouth for something more useful than talking." And that was a very, very, very a very dramatic turn of the trash talk, okay? Strickland's talking about raping him in prison now and making sweet love to him in prison as well by the sounds of things. It doesn't even sound too non-consensual by the end of it. And Kevin Holland says back, "Now I'd rip your eyes out. We're not the same. You joked about it. I'm really down." And then he says, "So you're like men is what you're ultimately saying. Good on you, but I like women." And then Sean Strickland said back, "Go for the eyes. I like the struggle. Is it weird this conversation is kind of turning me on a little? I'm not gay, but you're making a good argument here." And if that doesn't just scream UFC promotion material, I want that all over a highlight video, okay? We need that posted on the UFC website. I don't care how graphic it got. That is the storyline for the fight. And in the cage, both will be talking to each other. And also, if Kevin Holland really wants to go there, Strickland's not going to take you down, I don't think. I'm sure Strickland would very likely entertain a boxing match with Kevin Holland. So let's make that fight. I want to see that fight regardless. Even if Strickland loses, give him a shot again against Kevin Holland. Unless he gets Boston crabbed in the first round. Unless something really embarrassing happens. Maybe then we won't do it, but I just feel like Strickland needs to be jumped up those rankings after this one against Kevin Holland. There's no way he's going to have to take on another guy behind him. Jotko's arguably he's arguably a ranked level contender anyway. I just feel like Strickland's too good with the hands. Jotko's a little bit sloppy with the combinations. Strickland doesn't even throw too many kicks, which I think is going to be a good thing here if Jotko's going to be trying to take him down. And Jotko just hasn't been able to take down guys, and Strickland hasn't been able to have been taken down by guys. And I think that's a bad matchup for Jotko on the feet for 3 rounds against Sean Strickland. Fair enough, he can do some work against the cage, but that's only going to last so long. And you got Strickland training with guys like Marvin Vettori on a regular basis. He's training at a good gym, King's MMA. I feel like he's going to do really well in this division. And I can see him going on a little bit of a run here at middleweight in his late age, even though it's not a late age, but it's at the later half of his career at 30, making some good money for himself. I feel like I can see him going on a bit of a run at welterweight, because if he wins this one and then wins against Kevin Holland, maybe, you're looking at the division right now. I feel like Strickland can beat a lot of them. In all honesty, whenever I watch Derek Brunson fight, I think I can beat Derek Brunson. Like, I can see Strickland really jumping up these rankings if he does get these next 2 wins together. And I think that'd be a really good thing for the division, because he's basically Kevin Holland, but he's got takedown defense, and he won't just get laid on for the entire fight like Kevin Holland does. Because that kind of ruined Holland's whole thing. Like, Holland was the badass guy, but there's only so badass you can look when you're on your back for fucking 25 minutes of a 25-minute fight, and you can't do anything about it. So yeah, I hate to side with Strickland here, but if they were in jail, my money's on Strickland being the giver, in all honesty. Yeah, and I feel like another great matchup down the line would maybe be Darren Till versus Sean Strickland. I can already hear the press conference going already. We need to get press conferences back, and we need to get them back with everyone on stage. I'm sick of this press conference where one guy sits on one side, the other guy sits on the other, and they just chat back and forth. I want everyone on stage talking to each other. I want bantamweight shit talking heavyweights. I want flyweight shit talking women's flyweights. I want fucking featherweight shit talking welterweights. I want the press conferences back, because that's where these personalities are going to shine. I don't think we get that moment with these personalities anymore without those big press conferences. Thank you for watching. If he wins this one, do him versus Kevin Holland. That's fucking final. Like and subscribe. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Sean Strickland by 3rd round TKO. As Jotko closes the distance, he lands a straight right hand that puts him on the ground, and out cold is Jotko. Goodbye. Toodle pip.